My name is Emily, age 44, and I'm employed as a TV broadcaster. Alongside me is my husband Tom, also 44, who manages a photography studio. Our journey began in high school, where we became each other's first and only significant other. The path to marriage was natural, as if destiny had woven our lives together seamlessly. At 25, tragedy struck when I lost my parents in an accident. In the aftermath, Tom's unwavering support was a lifeline, solidifying his place as not just a husband but a familial anchor. Post-nuptials, Tom relocated to my childhood home, a sanctuary left behind by my parents, where I found solace in our shared space. Our union bore fruit with the arrival of our son, bringing immense joy into our lives. Tom proved to be the epitome of an egalitarian partner, seamlessly balancing household responsibilities and childcare, a testament to his commitment to our shared goals. Yet, amidst our bliss, a shadow loomed in the form of my mother-in-law Jen. She couldn't reconcile with the sight of Tom, a man, taking charge of domestic duties. Reflecting on an incident a decade past, when our son was just beginning elementary school, Jen's presence escalated. With the transition from nursery to elementary school came logistical challenges, prompting us to rely on her assistance in ferrying our son home. Her frequent visits coincided with her husband Steve's retirement, affording them both ample free time. Jen, a staunch traditionalist, had embraced the role of homemaker while Steve was less inclined towards household chores. Whenever Tom found himself in the kitchen, effortlessly whipping up meals, Jen's disapproval lingered audibly in muttered phrases like, "A man's place isn't in the kitchen," or nostalgic remarks about how their generation wouldn't conceive of such occurrences. Upon my initial visit to their home, Jen wasted no time in expressing her expectation for me to relinquish my career aspirations, firmly rooted in her belief that women should prioritize homemaking. My role as a glamorous broadcaster seemed to irk her, contrasting sharply with her worldview. Yet Tom, who had witnessed my passion for broadcasting since our high school days, remained steadfast in his support for my ambitions. Likewise, I championed his pursuit of photography, and our symbiotic collaboration felt organic and effortless. Navigating the challenges of nursery school proved to be a joint effort, but the transition to elementary school brought unexpected hurdles, particularly with after-school care proving less accommodating. This compelled us to lean on Jen's assistance more heavily. As she began to frequent our home, her critiques of household tasks became a common refrain. Despite Tom's nonchalant responses defending our division of labor, Jen persisted in voicing her disapproval, often behind my back. Yet, recognizing her invaluable help, I chose to endure her comments in silence, opting not to engage in confrontation. Despite her traditional values, Jen had a surprising affinity for modern conveniences. Proudly brandishing her smartphone, she boasted of being the sole owner among her peers, reveling in the ease of access it provided. "I'm ahead of the curve," she proclaimed, enthusiastically exploring the internet for various purposes. "Look at how simple it is to do things now," she remarked, advocating for the adoption of convenient tools. Embracing the digital age, she efficiently utilized online platforms for tasks like restaurant reservations and service bookings. However, Jen's embrace of modernity seemed selective when it came to our family's shopping habits. Disapproving of our reliance on a delivery service for weekly grocery orders, she voiced her dissent with comments like, "You should handle the shopping yourself," and lamented the perceived wastefulness of delivery fees. Yet, her tune changed upon discovering the option to order groceries online. Encouraging me to embrace this newfound convenience, she eagerly advocated for the abandonment of outdated paper forms, highlighting the benefits of digital shopping. During evenings when Jen lingered at our home while Tom and I prepared dinner, she often cited the need to return for Steve's meal, emphasizing his inability to dine alone. Steve's aversion to household tasks was evident, leaving Jen to shoulder the domestic burden. Curious about Tom's contrasting approach, I once questioned him about his cooperative attitude towards chores, given his upbringing. Tom's response shed light on his determination to avoid the same complaints his mother had voiced about his father's lack of involvement. It was a lesson learned through observation of negative patterns. Jen's frustration with her husband's reluctance to contribute to household chores was palpable, contrasting with her bemusement at her son's willingness to pitch in. Perplexed by her seemingly contradictory stance, I suspected that Jen found solace in airing grievances, prompting me to maintain a cautious distance. Little did I know at the time, Jen's mounting frustrations would eventually lead her to take drastic actions, such as selling our house without consent, revealing the depths of her desperation. That summer brought an exciting opportunity when my company extended an invitation for a 2-month business trip abroad to cover a sports broadcast at the World Championship. It was a rare chance that felt like the culmination of my hard work and dedication. Recognizing the significance of this opportunity, I turned to Tom for guidance. Amidst his own commitments, he expressed uncertainty about managing both work and caring for our son John. It was then that Jen, who had been quietly listening, stepped in with an offer to assist. Despite lingering reservations from past encounters, the absence of alternative options left me with little choice but to entrust John's care to Jen. While considering the option of having Tom and John stay with Tom's parents, we realized the logistical challenges of commuting to school from their location. Ultimately, we settled on the arrangement of Jen staying at our home during weekdays to provide care for John. With this plan in motion, I embarked on my business trip, fully immersing myself in the sportscasting work and achieving significant strides in my career. Exhausted and relieved to be back in the U.S., I trudged towards my home on a weekday afternoon, burdened by the weight of my suitcase. As I approached the entrance, I was met by Jen, who seemed oddly eager. Prepared to express my gratitude for her assistance during my absence, I was blindsided by her unexpected declaration. "This house sold for $300,000, so I'm taking the full amount." Stunned, I struggled to process her words. "Our house?" I questioned incredulously, hoping for some clarification. With a gleam in her eyes, Jen affirmed, "Yes, this house. Well, actually, we don't technically own it." Her sudden backtrack only added to my confusion, prompting me to question the authenticity of her claim. However, Jen dismissed my doubts with laughter, insisting on the validity of her statement and brandishing the registration certificate as evidence. As she stood there, arms crossed and seemingly victorious, I realized that reasoning with her would be futile. Deciding to change tactics, I attempted to redirect the conversation. "Let's set that aside for a moment. Why are you selling it?" I inquired, hoping for some semblance of explanation. With a nonchalant air, Jen declared, "What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband, and therefore to me. I'm using it to build a new house." Her rationale, though flawed, hinted at a deeper agenda, leaving me grappling with a sense of disbelief and betrayal. As Jen's words echoed in the air, her bloodshot eyes filled me with a creeping sense of unease. The notion of a new house, one that belonged to both my husband and me, suddenly seemed tainted with a sinister undertone. Her resolve was palpable as she outlined her intentions, driven by a misguided sense of obligation to shield Tom from household chores. "I've raised him not to engage in such tasks, and I won't allow him to do so in the future," she declared with unwavering conviction. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, it became clear that Jen's perception of Tom's role in our household had been distorted from the beginning. A simple act of solidarity, when Tom had insisted on sharing household responsibilities shortly after our marriage, had been misconstrued by Jen. In her eyes, Tom's willingness to contribute was a mere reflection of his residence in my house, rather than a genuine commitment to shared responsibilities. The concept of a working couple collaborating on household duties simply did not register in her worldview. Delving deeper into the situation, I discovered the underlying financial strain plaguing Jen and Steve following Steve's retirement. With his pension falling short, expectations and job opportunities scarce, they found themselves grappling with the daunting prospect of maintaining their rented apartment. It was this sense of desperation that drove them to resort to such unthinkable measures. "No, this house isn't mine, and Tom thinks it's normal to do housework," I asserted, attempting to counter Jen's accusations. Yet, before I could elaborate further, Jen dismissed my words as lies, adamantly refusing to entertain any alternative interpretation. Desperate for clarity amidst the chaos, I redirected the conversation towards practical details. "Where did you sell it?" I inquired, hoping to gain insight into the situation. Jen confirmed my suspicions, revealing that she had engaged an online evaluation real estate agent, AA Real Estate, to facilitate the sale. With minimal effort, the necessary documents were submitted, and the transaction proceeded seamlessly. "It's a convenient world, isn't it?" she remarked with a hint of satisfaction. As the details emerged, it became apparent that Jen had acted impulsively, swayed by the assurances of the real estate agent. The allure of a lucrative offer, coupled with the buyer's eagerness for a property in our area, had seemingly convinced her of the transaction's merits, selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000. "I found a good real estate, didn't I?" she boasted proudly, oblivious to the turmoil her actions had caused. As I delved into my investigation, I came across a website for the real estate company that appeared legitimate. Attempting to confirm the validity of the sale, I dialed their number, only to be met with silence on the other end. Seeking clarification from Jen regarding her involvement, I demanded to know if she had physically visited the real estate company's address. Her response was dismissive, claiming that such visits were unnecessary in today's digital age. Determined to uncover the truth, I issued a firm ultimatum: visit the address in person the following day, or our discussion would cease. To my astonishment, Jen's tearful call the next day confirmed my worst fears. The purported real estate company was nowhere to be found. In its place stood a derelict wooden structure devoid of life. Despite the gravity of the situation, I couldn't help but burst into laughter at Jen's folly. Upon her return, Jen confessed to her misguided actions. Fueled by a misplaced sense of opportunity upon discovering the house registration certificate in my name during my absence, she had enlisted the services of the real estate agent. Their shameless assurances, coupled with Jen's naivety, led her to believe that the sale was legitimate, even without actual ownership. In her eagerness to seize what she perceived as an opportunity, she had unwittingly fallen prey to deception, providing the agent with all the requested documents without hesitation. Upon discovering a potential buyer, the fraudulent real estate agents demanded a deposit, half of their commission fee, amounting to $4,800, equivalent to half of the $9,600 commission promised for the $300,000 sale. Concerned of the gravity of the situation, I promptly contacted the authorities to report the scam. 2 officers were dispatched to our home to investigate the matter further. To our dismay, the police officers revealed that such internet fraud, masquerading as legitimate real estate agents, had become increasingly prevalent. Their modus operandi involved offering free property valuations, soliciting official documents from unsuspecting victims, introducing a fictitious buyer, and then absconding with a hefty fee. It was a cunning scheme that preyed on the vulnerabilities of individuals seeking to sell their properties. With the proliferation of vacant houses and the ease of fabricating addresses for document delivery, such fraudulent activities had surged in recent times. The officers theorized that the fraudsters likely designated a postbox under a fictitious name to receive the documents. Trembling with apprehension, Jen cooperated with the police, providing them with vital information. However, their inquiry took a startling turn when the officer questioned Jen about the house deed. In a barely audible voice, she admitted, "No, it was the original." The revelation left the officer visibly astounded, underscoring the severity of the situation and the extent of Jen's unwitting participation in the scam. As the police officer turned to me for clarification, I calmly denied any involvement in requesting the deposit. "No, I didn't ask for that," I stated plainly. Despite Jen's visibly distressed state, the officer seemed to lean towards trusting my account over hers. "She says she didn't ask for it. Selling things on your own isn't advisable, madame." "This situation is outrageous," he admonished, casting a disapproving glance at Jen, who remained silent, her lip bitten in remorse. Turning his attention back to Jen, the officer probed further about the deed registration. "You sent a copy, right?" Her barely audible response, "No, it was the original," left the officer even more incredulous. His dismay evident, he exchanged a glance with me, silently acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Sensing the need for resolution, the officer inquired about filing a theft report. However, I declined, explaining that the document had no validity in the sale process. "Actually, this house has already been sold to someone else," I revealed, elaborating on the legal changes that rendered the deed registration obsolete in such transactions. While I cherished the deed as a memento of my parents' legacy, its practical significance had diminished over time. With this revelation, the reality of the situation began to sink in, leaving Jen with a heavy sense of regret. As the reality of the situation began to dawn on Jen, she realized her misunderstanding regarding the deed and its implications. In her mind, the presence of the deed signified ongoing ownership of the house. Unaware that its significance had diminished in the sale process orchestrated by the fraudsters, faced with embarrassment and frustration, she turned her gaze towards me with a hint of resentment, questioning why I hadn't sold the house myself. Her muttered words stung, insinuating that my career choices had led to our current predicament. Meeting her gaze with a calm resolve, I explained the true reason behind the sale: Tom's ambition to pursue his dream photography business. With insufficient funds to kickstart his venture, we had made the difficult decision to part with our cherished family home, selling it to an acquaintance and subsequently renting it back. As I recounted the series of events, Jen's demeanor shifted, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Her tearful outburst laid bare the deeper frustrations plaguing her own life, revealing the stark contrast between her own marital struggles and our united front. As she lamented her husband's perceived shortcomings, her grievances poured forth unabated, leaving the police officer at a loss for words as he struggled to navigate the emotional turmoil unfolding before him. Despite filing a fraud report, the perpetrators remained elusive, evading capture for over a decade, leaving little hope for the recovery of the lost funds. In the wake of the ordeal, Steve's trust in Jen waned, prompting him to assume full control over their finances. Stripped of any financial autonomy, Jen found herself relegated to seeking Steve's approval for even the most basic expenses, a restriction she found suffocating and frustrating. As she grappled with the consequences of her actions, Jen turned to Tom for solace, only to be met with a reminder of her own culpability. Bereft of disposable income, she sought employment through senior job listings, eventually finding fulfillment in teaching the elderly how to navigate modern technology. Despite her own struggles, Jen's empathetic approach endeared her to her students, earning her respect for her ability to relate to their challenges and patiently guide them through the intricacies of smartphone usage. Though her circumstances had shifted dramatically, Jen found solace in her newfound role, finding purpose in helping others navigate the digital age. Steve, driven perhaps by his pride, found senior roles unfulfilling and promptly resigned, leaving him without a source of income. Meanwhile, Jen's schedule has become increasingly hectic, often leaving him to tend to household chores as she attends to her commitments. Surprisingly, Steve has discovered a newfound passion for cooking and is honing his skills in the kitchen. The dynamics in Tom's parents' household have shifted dramatically, yet both individuals seem to have found a sense of satisfaction in their new roles. In my own journey, following a successful overseas business trip, I've ascended the career ladder and now serve as the anchor for the evening news. Tom's photography studio is thriving, and together, we've accumulated enough savings to contemplate repurchasing and renovating the family home. We remain grateful to our acquaintance who allowed us to retain ownership of the house despite the distressing ordeal we endured. Ultimately, the situation proved beneficial for Tom's parents. As our son nears adulthood at 17, I've imparted this tale to him as a lesson on the dangers of internet fraud. However, out of respect for his grandparents, I've chosen to keep the aspect of their attempt to sell our house a secret, preserving their dignity.